All right, we're live. Hello and welcome to the Gaming Perspective, episode number 62, E3 Overdrive. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of PlayStation stuff, admittedly, this week, which is exciting, considering they're not at E3, but still being part of the conversation. As always, and of course we got a few other things to throw in there, Prince of Persia and some all normal nonsense floating around. So it's great to be here. It's Tuesday night at 8 p.m. ish Eastern Standard Time. Thank you again for joining us. And joining me tonight is my usual co-host, Mr. Samuel Good Business Sense Tolbert. How's it going tonight, man?
Good. I've got good business sense, because why would I limit myself to just one new generation of platforms when I've got that install base? Just doesn't seem fair, right? Doesn't seem fair to abandon my audience that way. I'm sorry. I got to keep one-upping the snark. It's always good to be here, 8 p.m.-ish. That ish does some heavy lifting for us. You ever think about that?
Oh, yeah. Like that,
ish, it's like we lean on that ish. Atlas is holding that ish up. It's just...
If you've known me long enough, if I use the word "ish," that does some Arnold Schwarzenegger type lifting.
In my vocabulary.
Yeah, it's definitely pumping iron. Eric is not. Yeah, Eric isn't with us. He's got some personal stuff going on. I'm not at liberty to disclose what's going on. Just wishing him all the best and hoping well for him and everyone involved going on with right now. That was really way more awkward than it needed to be, but I'm terrible at projecting things like that. Just ultimately, give Eric well wishes and tell him how much you love, Sunset Overdrive this week. He'll appreciate that. But we're here. I'm Nicholas Downey. I'm the usual host of this show. You can find me on Twitter at Undead3XVI, where I shit out hot takes like a crazy bastard all the time, and it's a good time. So we always talk about each and every week what we've kind of been playing and everything else. I know E3 is kind of a weird time gameplay-wise for you, Sam, but you've been just, doodling around in something, or?
Yeah, actually I have, and it's mostly been the same game. It's the 2016 Ratchet and Clank. I figured, because it's not the same thing as starting a new game, right? Because it's old. You played it before. It came out years ago. It's not the same thing as, I'm immersed. I'm embarking on this new journey, new game, oral game that I haven't played before. So it's not headspace wise. It's different. I'm still in that headspace I talked about last week, but I've been in that. It's a good time. If you have not played that game, it is a good time. Please go play it. It's 60 FPS. On the PS5. It's definitely, I will say the only thing about it is it's definitely amazing when people were like, whoa, this is incredible. These visuals are insane, Insomniac. And then, comparing that to the upcoming Rift Apart, it's like, okay, it looks good, but Rift Apart is just blowing it out of the water now. So that's funny that way, but it's smooth. It's really smooth. It's a fun game, good sense of humor. It's just fun. It's good to decompress in. So, I've been mopping up trophies in that, having a blast going through with all the different guns. So, that's me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good, but that's kind of one of my favorite things about games that you've already beaten. You can kind of go back to them when you aren't really in a mood to play something, or you can't really play much. And you can just kind of go back and play them, and you don't get that, I don't know what to call it, but that guilt feeling of, I really need to go back and finish that. You can just, play for a couple hours and then plug off and then not play it again. And it's fine. It's like my Skyrim file that continues to live on somehow. This week for me, it's mainly been Iron Harvest, playing a lot of that. Mopped up the Usonia campaign, which was really good. And been playing a ton of the multiplayer with some friends and stuff. And, definitely a lot of fun. Definitely love the airships, and everything going on with that game is really awesome right now. And if you're a big fan of RTS, I definitely recommend checking it out. And there's console ports coming soon. So that's what they're moving on to next after the DLC. So if you're on PlayStation or Xbox, that's something to keep your eye out on.
Do we know right now when those, publicly, do we know when those console ports are coming out? Because I'm still trying to get a new graphics card, and it's not going well. It's not great. So I might end up having to relent and get the console port until I can get a new graphics card.
From my understanding from the conversations that we had on the live stream is that they're now focusing their team's efforts to the console ports now, which admittedly were in production before, but as they said on the stream, COVID kind of made things a little shaky on what they had to prioritize and everything else.
Sure.
So, but they're apparently coming. They didn't put a timestamp on it, but they did say they were hoping later this year. But I wouldn't hold anyone to that, obviously, with everything going on. But yeah, that'll be a really exciting game when it comes to console. And I've also been dabbling in Maneater because I really have no desire to get swept up into Mass Effect 2 until after Ratchet and Clank right now. Like, there's just that's absolutely because I was like, maybe I could beat Mass Effect 2 in the week before Ratchet and Clank, and then part of my brain was like, yeah, but what if you don't? And I'm like, that's a good point. So yeah, because that I'm sorry, I don't usually read reviews because usually, I have to write reviews, but since I'm not doing a review on Ratchet and Clank, I actually read some of the reviews and my hype for that game is astronomically higher than it was. It was pretty high to start with. So
yeah, good reviews all around. I think it's like not that you should invest too much in Metacritic or OpenCritic, of course, but like 88, 89, something like that, somewhere in there. Like very high scores all around, lots of 8s and 9s, few 10s. Everyone says it's a charming game, that it's a lot of fun, that it keeps the spirit of the 2016 game while being even more gorgeous and even more fun with all the set pieces. I'm looking forward to it. What sucks. I'm not trying to make this about me. What sucks for me is that because it's launching on the 11th, I'm not sure I want to try starting it when I'm going to be in the middle of like covering the Ubisoft conference, not that day, but like the very next day, and then the Xbox Bethesda show after that, and then the Capcom and WB stuff, and then Nintendo. I'm like, am I seriously going to be waiting until the next week? I'm going to try. No promises. I'm going to try and get started because that is another thing. And the quick impromptu topic, I guess. Like, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I'm curious your thoughts. I saw a lot of people saying this game can be platinumed in under 20 hours, like 20 hours max. Honestly, that's a plus to me. I'm not complaining. I think that's fine, personally.
Look, I know once people get it in their hands and, if it's a 20-hour platinum or wherever, people are going to get into that whole stupid, $70 for a 20-hour game. Ooh, we're going to have to hear that. But
I know, I get it.
Here's my argument for that, though. How much fun do you have in that 20 hours? The older I get and the more my kids grow up and the more time I have to spend playing Minecraft with my life, I start to appreciate games that really respect my time. And I understand with some games, they need to be long. They need to be, storied and everything else. And that's fine. But I also don't have a problem if games are like, hey, 20 hours and you've seen everything. You've done everything. And, I think it creates a good balance to both. I don't think inherently AAA games need to be 100 hours to be worth my money. And I don't know. It just seems like a natural step forward for Ratchet and Clank. Like, Ratchet and Clank games were never 80 hours in the first place.
No. They've never, like, a 20-hour platinum is like, that's roughly the same, depending on how long a couple of certain trophies take you. That's basically the same as the 2016 game. Yeah. So I was, that's pretty in line. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Shorter games are good games. And long games can still be long games, but just don't expect me to play them in any rush.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of short games, the last game I was playing this week was, of course, Maneater, which was free on PlayStation Plus, and it's also on Game Pass, and you should play it if you're looking for something short to kill some time. It is stupid fun, like stupid fun. It's got some minor RPG elements that are really easy to understand. And you just get right into eating people and destroying shit. And it's way more fun than it has any right to be. Because I remember like seeing previews and demos for this and being like, this is a really weird concept that sounds really fun for about 30 minutes. And then it's going to get super boring. And honestly, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's just a lot of fun and it's high octane and the humor really sells it well. I would love to see the developers take on other animals, honestly. It's kind of like Untitled Goose Game, where I'm like, do a ferret or a cat. I'd love an Untitled Cat game, or
yeah.
But ultimately, great good time playing tons of fun little games right now before all the big AAA stuff starts dropping, and we're going to be busy. But as we head into the later parts of 2021, games are inevitably going to get delayed. Which segues into our first topic here. The Prince of Persia remake has been delayed into 2022, which on a couple of different scales, it's really, really fine. Like one of the things that you mentioned on Multiverse last night that I didn't realize is that the Ubisoft studio that's leading this one is in India, correct?
Yeah, it is. I don't think it's called Ubisoft India. It's one of the bigger cities, so I apologize in advance on that. I just don't remember which one it is, but they have an Indian team working on it, which is great. That's a good thing. But the problem is, if you haven't noticed, if you haven't seen the news, India is getting hit bad by another wave of COVID right now. As a lot of European countries, as America and other places are starting to recover, India is just... nightmarish doesn't do it justice, what's happening right now. So I say that to say it's fine. It's seriously fine. The health and safety of that team should come first. Delayed into 2022, and when they've recovered, we can have it done. It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the game took some sharp criticism when it was revealed too. So leaving it in the oven a little longer to let that team obviously recover from the COVID situation, but also, to regroup and kind of look at what they're doing, and maybe they can tweak some things or wherever the case may be. It's just good to see Ubisoft being transparent and delaying the game into 2022, and hopefully when we see it next, it'll be impressive. And wishing the team involved with that project well, obviously, because the situation in India is absolutely catastrophic at this point, and it's really sad to see the Western world basically be in the final stages of what feels like the end, while other parts of the world are still in some of the worst parts of it. And it sucks. But, time moves on, and Rainbow Six Quarantine is renamed again. I have no idea why they keep changing the name of this. What was the original name on this one? This was Rainbow Six. What was the teaser name for this? What was it?
It was originally Rainbow Six Quarantine when it was announced at E3 2019. Then early this year, I want to say like January, like very early this year, leaked documents and files showed that it had been changed to Rainbow Six Parasite. But Ubisoft issued a statement shortly after that leak and said, hey, this is a placeholder. We didn't go with this name. We'll share the official name later. And now it appears it is Rainbow Six Extraction. For whatever it's worth, I'll just put this out there. I liked Parasite more than Extraction. Honestly, I think Rainbow Six, for the type of game they're trying to sell, which is a co-op alien menace, some sort of infection going on, whatever, I get not going with Quarantine. Okay, I get it. Like, state of the world, I get it. I understand. But honestly, Extraction sounds more like a generic, good guys versus terrorist angle. Yeah. I don't know. Do you see what I mean? I think I liked Parasite more as a name.
It's kind of like Rainbow Six Patriot back in the day. It was kind of like, this is going to be a chest beater military shooter type deal, which isn't exactly what we've seen. Admittedly, we haven't seen a lot about this game. So, but I'm excited for this because you're obviously into Rainbow Six because you play with us all the time. Me and Ivan are massive Rainbow Six fans, so it's interesting to see what they're going to do with this and how it's all going to play together with this IP. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'd love to see more co-op stuff based in that universe because, the original Rainbow Six series had a fantastic campaign with fantastic multiplayer. So I wouldn't be against some storytelling.
We'll see. I hope it's good. I'll say that. I don't know what to expect is the problem.
No.
This game was We're going because we're getting gameplay at E3, which is fine, but like it's been 2 years and with basically nothing, like not even a CGI trailer, not even a story trailer or anything. So I don't know what to expect. I hope it's good.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at with it, because like most of the time with a game, you kind of know what to expect once you start hitting the gameplay stage. But honestly, since they revealed it and then we haven't really seen anything about it, I'm really curious to what the whole, like, what's going to be the loop here? What's going to make me keep playing this, or what's the interest in this, and what are you trying to do with this game? So I'm interested to see what their sales pitch is, and I'll judge once the whole pitch is there, obviously. And we don't have long to wait because Ubisoft forwards on the Saturday, correct?
Yep, June 12th.
June 12th. So I'm excited. Ubisoft's got some other stuff down the pipes that I'm kind of excited to see more of. So that's definitely on the list. Now, something that we don't have long to wait for is, of course, the official Battlefield reveal tomorrow.
Yep.
Which, hype for this game has been, it's getting up there. And I don't want to be I don't want to dive too hard into hyperbole, but I don't remember people being this hyped for Battlefield 5.
Yeah, they definitely weren't. I'll argue to you, I don't even think they were this hyped for Battlefield 1. Like, the hype is getting up there. It's nearing fever pitch territory. People want this game desperately to be good. They need this game. Shout out to you, Justin. Shout out to you, Zach. I know y'all are with me on that. Y'all are with us on that boat. We do have, I think, leaked data from Tom Henderson and some other people has sort of filtered out that the name of the game, this is public knowledge, this is not me leaking, is Battlefield 2042. So it seems like it's very near future, like just about 20 years, 25 years in the future, and that sort of thing. So fingers crossed. I'm hoping it's real good.
Man, I'm so excited for that. Well, actually, let me explain why I'm excited for it. I'm excited for that because Call of Duty's like, hey, World War II again, woohoo! So I'm like, hey, something different, cool. Because honestly, I'm so tired of the World War II setting, and that was ultimately one of the reasons why I couldn't get into Battlefield 5. I was just like, oh, look, it's another World War II shooter. But, it'll be interesting to see what it is. Obviously, I don't want to speculate too much. I think DICE is either going to put up or shut up at this point.
Yep.
They need to. Because the hype's there, the interest is there. They just need to deliver now. And, if they do, good things ahead. It's definitely not something you'll want to pass up on, that's for sure. So we also got some PlayStation news last week. Actually, I don't want to say a little
just a bit.
Yeah,
just
no,
a bit.
I don't want to say a little bit of PlayStation news. There's a lot of PlayStation news all in one day from a bunch of different aspects of PlayStation as a whole. So let's talk first, because you've got the blog post pulled up. So let's kind of talk about the Herman Halst interview first, because I think there's some interesting tidbits with the Halst interview. What were some things from what Halst kind of said that were interesting to you?
Yeah, so I presume you mean we're dancing around the obvious big purple elephant in the room, right? The big one until we'll cover this.
The whole Jim Ryan sized elephant in the room.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, we'll dance around that for a bit. There's a few interesting comments he made. I thought that it kind of went underrepresented again in light of the other big news that happened. His talking about how they think it's very early for their strategy on PC. Like, despite the fact that they brought Horizon Zero Dawn to PC last August, the fact that they just brought Days Gone over, they're still gathering data. They're still figuring out how they see it. But he did say that the 2-year gap between Days Gone being on console and then going to PC is a good example. So it seems like roughly what we can expect they're aiming for is 2 years from a PlayStation game hitting console to then go to PC. So I think that was interesting because I don't think a lot of people focused on that per se in comparison to a lot of other stuff. That's certainly interesting as they continue to figure it out. He talked about how, they continue to see single player narrative games as, and this is me paraphrasing, of course, their bread and butter. That I think literally the phrase he used was our DNA, which time he said that with their partnerships with some of the games they're going to be publishing, they're not opposed to exploring more in multiplayer. They know they need to explore more in that regard, which I don't think is unreasonable. I think that's very reasonable, all things considered. It seems like they're not going to be forgetting who they are by any stretch of the imagination. And then he did confirm as well that Ben's studio is working on a new IP, which is an open world game, which we knew that from Jason Schreier's report, but it's good to hear it confirmed here for anyone who didn't believe it. It's not Days Gone 2, but they're not doing an Uncharted or anything like that now. They are going to be making their own game. So I'm excited to see that. At the same time, new IP taking a while. I expect we're not seeing this game for a couple of years. Right, like realistically, I would not expect it to be revealed this year. Certainly not this year. Probably not even next year. I'm thinking 2023 is when this game shows up reasonably, which is fine. It's fine. I get it. So I'm happy Ben. I don't want to dip back into the whole Days Gone thing too much. I'm sad we're not getting a sequel, but I am excited to see what's a new open world from them look like, right? Because you assume they can't do post-apocalypse again. You assume it can't be zombies and raiders and all that. So, what if it's a sci-fi open world? What would that look like?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm tossing stuff out there, but that's cool. Go ahead.
One thing I really wanted to kind of note is one thing I've noticed, especially as it pertains to Halst specifically, is he seems to do a really good job in covering a lot of multi-points when he does talk. He doesn't talk often, but when he does, he addresses a whole bunch of different things that people kind of have questions about. The adaptiveness of their PC strategy is really interesting to me because, when they said, a whole slate of PC games, we've only really seen 2. And, we've seen from investor slides, Uncharted 4 is coming. Right. Obviously, God of War is going to come in the lead up to God of War, whatever insert name here is.
That's a duh. It's going to happen for sure.
But I'm kind of interested to see, if the PC numbers show a certain way, will that timeline shorten and everything else? I'm very interested to see what PlayStation's PC strategy looks like in the next, 2 years would be my bit, because as we know, it takes years of data for them to so-called turn the ship on certain things. So I'm very interested to see where they land as their go-to for these. Ben working on a new IP is awesome. I'm glad it's not an Uncharted or whatever the case may be. I'm glad that they nipped that kind of in the butt now. And I like the fact that they're acknowledging the lack of multiplayer, and while also, calming people down that, we're not going to stop doing what we love, because there's always been this weird thing when it came to PlayStation. It's it's same thing with Xbox. When people say, I want more single player games on Xbox, people are like, but we don't want to lose the multiplayer games. And when you say on PlayStation, I want more multiplayer games, people are like, but the single player games, you can have both. I promise it won't kill you. And I'm really excited to see what their multiplayer games are going to look like. But overall, I think Halst did a good job of covering all his bases, and I really think PlayStation Studios is in good hands with Herman.
I think so. Herman's a smart guy. Herman just clearly, that doesn't mean he's not going to make some tough decisions, as we've already seen from what happened to Japan Studio, what's happened to Manchester Studio. I don't think that comes with the territory, but at the same time, the man led Guerrilla to greatness with Horizon Zero Dawn. He knows what he's doing. Is the way I see it. So,
yeah, He'll definitely. I'll be interested to see what the PlayStation Studios culture looks like by the end of what he is rolling out, because Guerrilla Games is very culture focused. It's very much about their employees and everything else, and I hope some of that shines over to some of their more problematic studios in the long run.
Yeah.
But now let's stop dancing around the Jim Ryan size in the room.
That was the small stuff from the interview. That was the tidbits.
that was definitely the tidbits. So, it's weird. It's kind of it's so weird because I have this whole sense that I would not have cared if before the PlayStation 5 came out they said, hey, a bunch of these games are going to be cross-gen. I would have been like, cool, okay, whatever. And then they were like, no, cross-generation games are bad. And I'm like, okay. And then you're showing me Ratchet and Clank where it's like, this is PS5 only. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm right there with you. You guys want to do it the traditional way? I'm fully on board with the traditional way. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing. And to see them backpedal it in such a way it just feels weird and awkward. And I think one of the reasons this backpedal feels so awkward is it isn't even 4 months ago that they were talking about generations being important and everything else. I understand sometimes plans change and everything else, but man, did the ship ever turn quick when it came to this one, particularly, especially when it came to Gran Turismo going from only on PS5 marketed to being a cross-gen game. So what's your kind of general thoughts on this before I, give my weird opinion on this too much?
Yeah. Look, last year we did this. That's the thing. We've done this. Last year, we had the whole thing with Miles Morales and Sackboy and Horizon Forbidden West. And I remember saying at the time, I wasn't angry. I'm not angry that you're doing it. I'm upset that you didn't communicate that. You very clearly announced these games in a manipulative way. It's fine for Miles and Sackboy is whatever. It's totally fine. Horizon is a little more, but hey, the game looks gorgeous, right? The PS5 game looks gorgeous. God of War, again, they did not ever say that it was PS5 only, right? They never said that.
Nope.
They certainly implied it with hashtags. They implied it with the way the game was talked about, or not talked about, rather, but they didn't say that. So even then, as annoyed as I am that it's not going to happen, and I'm going to circle back around to that in just a moment. Mm-hmm. All right, I get it. Gran Turismo 7 is kind of the straw breaking my camel's back here. Gran Turismo, I'm sorry. This is going to sound very harsh, but I think you'd be crazy not to be calling them out over Gran Turismo 7. That's just where I'm at, because the game was marketed as PS5 exclusive. Mm-hmm. It was announced that way. It was marketed that way. They were only on PS5, only on PS5, exclusive to PS5. So what they're saying basically is that doesn't matter, that they can just say that and then take it back 6 months later, a year later. Am I missing something? Do I not I don't know. Help me out here, world. And look, I'm sure the game will be gorgeous. The game is going to be gorgeous. The game will run so much better on the PS5. I have no doubt that's not in question. It does mean that, but at some level, it means that there are going to be decisions that have to be made that keep it back. The next Forza Motorsport, Turn 10 has talked about how they're revamping the physics. The creative director, I can't remember his name, talked about how they're putting more physics work into just one tire than have been on entire cars in the past, with how they're recalculating stuff, and that's only possible due to the new CPU. So Gran Turismo, objectively, you can't do that. That's not some sort of console war thing or anything. I'm just giving an example, even within the racing genre. Even racing games, which usually scale the best out of any type of game, there are going to be limitations. There are things you're doing to yourself if you design it that way. So that's the whole thing. And then going back to God of War, look, the 2018 God of War is one of my favorite games of all time. And I played that on a base model PS4. Okay? So
same.
I have zero doubt. I have zero doubt that Sony Santa Monica is going to create another Game of the Year contender.
Nope.
Okay? They're going to do it. No question. Not up for debate. But objectively, not subjectively, objectively, it has to be disappointing that they're going to have to be more creative within the same technical constraints. Like looking at what Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is doing, looking at what that game is doing with Dimensions. God of War, right, it's all about shifting realms. You go between the different Norse realms of Midgard and Jotunheim, and not Svartalheim, but I think Alfheim in the game, Niflheim, and so forth. Imagine, like, if you were fighting Odin or Thor or Heimdall or whatever, and you're, like, fighting between realms. Like, Thor punches you so hard that he punts you out of Asgard directly back into Midgard, and then you just leap back up and continue to fight. Imagine the kind of cool stuff they could have done if they were just working around the PS5's SSD. Like, they could have done cool stuff like that. And they can't. They can't now. Not in the same way. And I don't know. I think it's okay to mourn that. I think it's okay to be a little miffed about that. That game is coming out in 2022. Gran Turismo 7 is coming out in 2022. Games coming out in 2022 are being designed for hardware that came out in 2013. That's 9 years. That's almost a decade. Almost a decade of difference. I don't know. Objectively, I feel like there's a problem there. And here's another thing, Nick. And here's another thing. This feels to me more egregious than it was with Horizon and Miles. Honestly, with Gran Turismo 7 specifically. When does it stop? Like, is this like, I assume this is the last batch of cross-gen games, right? Right? Like it has to be. This has to be the last ones, right? I mean, okay, and maybe Factions. I'll put that out there. Like, Factions at this point, I would assume is cross-gen. I would assume Factions is going to be on PS4, and that's fine. Like, it's multiplayer. I get it. I understand, but I don't know. Where do you they've never done this before. Where do you cut the ties? At what point do you just cut the old hardware? I'm just, I don't know. I know I probably sound more upset than I am. I'm just trying to be honest here. I think it.
Yeah. Well, they said they want to. Dano in the chat said they want to support PS4 for 4 years, but he didn't know about first party. I do vaguely remember there being a comment about supporting PS4 into like 2022 or 2023, but like.
Okay, so they've always
said
that. They've always said that we're going to support the next console, but that means like technical support, third-party games. Like I can't remember who it was. I think Sony London did like not the iTour, the SingStar games, like some SingStar PS2 games came out after the PS3 came out, and you had one-off weird games, right? Like God of War 2 on the PS2 came out after the PS3, right? Like you had that. Gran Turismo, was it 6? Yeah, Gran Turismo 6 came out for the PS3 after the PS4 was out. But they've always been the exception, not the rule. It's always been like this. And even then, they weren't cross-gen games. They were just on one platform. It was this swan song, hey, sorry it took so long, but this game was designed for this platform, and we are putting it out there. And I know, x86 architecture has changed that. I get it. x86 architecture has made things more scalable. Like, I understand. But this is still more egregious factoring that in. Sorry, I didn't want to take over what you were saying, Nick. I just had to kind of...
No. And see, here's the interesting thing, because I'm always of two minds when it comes to this kind of stuff, when it comes to cross-generational stuff. Because like you yes, graphics and everything's scalable and everything else, but world design and everything else isn't quite the same. As we've seen, Ratchet and Clank continues to be the fallback to, what old hardware is holding us back from, because it's a game that showcases so well what SSD technology does. And, ray tracing and all this other noodly stuff doesn't ultimately matter on an Xbox One and PS4 versus Series X and PS5. It's extra stuff that if you take the ray tracing off, it's not the end of the world. But when you start talking game mechanics and everything else, it is what it is. But here's the thing. you need to be honest with what your goals are. That's it. That's simply it. Is PlayStation said, this is where we are. This is our cutoff. This is done. And we were like, okay, cool. Like, at least for me, I was like, okay, so I know I need to get PS5 because I want to play this game, this game, this game, and this game. Fine. Cool. I bought a PS5. I'm excited for those games. I'm definitely not going to go play God of War, whatever it is, on my PS4 out of spite,
no.
Because hell no.
It's probably going to burst into flames. Like,
yeah. Like, I'm not going to do that. But the thing is if you're honest about it from the start, nobody would have cared.
Mm-hmm.
But people care now because you sat there and told them you're buying a PS5 for next generation only games. They're going to showcase the power of the PS5. But now we've gone back to, well, we're supporting the PS4 players, which ultimately I don't care if more people get to play the game. That's awesome. You know, with scalability and everything else, it's awesome more people get to play the game. But be honest with what you want to do with it. I'm sorry, Gran Turismo didn't just sprout a PlayStation 4 version. It doesn't just appear. Especially if there's next generation only PS5 things that they've talked about. Like, they have talked about and showcased things that are only doable on PlayStation 5 with Gran Turismo, and now that game's going to be on PS4. It's weird messaging. And, you know, all these games started development, to Glorious War's point, they all started development on PS4 probably. We all know that the rollout with dev kits and everything else was a little slower this generation than previous, you know, because there wasn't going to be a hard cutoff this time around. Like, I'm sorry, I don't think anyone planned for a hard cutoff. And I think with COVID, it's kind of been an opportunity. But I wonder how much, and this goes both ways. This is not just roasting Sony on this. This is Xbox too. I wonder how much influence shareholders are now taking on player base. Because when to separate people from their Xbox One player base, people are like, it's like 50 million or whatever the case may be. You know, Xbox One wasn't a gangbuster generation for Xbox, but try to convince investors that 106 million PS4s or however many they're at now to leave those behind with new software. It's a hard pitch. And I wonder if that plays into it. And that's not a knock against PlayStation or anything, because, you know, they're making these big AAA games. They need to sell copies of these games to make them profitable.
Yeah,
but
and can I jump in on this a little bit? Because Glorious War makes good points in the chat. I'm not going to disagree. Like, he says there are PS5 exclusives, and he's right. Okay, like, objectively, Astro's Playroom, though it's free and packed in, is PS5 only. Demon's Souls, though it's a remake of a PS3 game, is PS5 only. Destruction All Stars, though absolutely no one is playing it, is PS5 only. Yeah, that's actually one that should have been cross-gen, bluntly, but that's another thing. And then Returnal is PS5 only, and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is PS5 only. Yeah, that is correct. However, what game currently announced from Sony's first party is PS5 only once Ratchet & Clank comes out?
None. Zero.
Like, zilch. And then, like, I'm sorry, like, and here's another thing, with the whole, you know, I don't want to get too much into the whole media bias thing, but like with Xbox, but I'm sorry, objectively, Xbox was raked over the coals in 2020 when Matt Booty said that they were going to keep supporting it for 2 years at that point. So basically through 2021/early 2022, somewhere in there. Same as Sony. Yep. They were raked over the coals. Tech Radar said that, and I'm working for them right now so I can roast them. They said that they were robbing players of the next-gen thrill. GI Biz ran opinion pieces about how they didn't feel next-gen enough. Okay, so, and I can go on and on about that. So it's not performative, it's just reality. Like, that's just the reality of where we're at. I'm going to wonder what Halo Infinite could have been if it wasn't tethered to the 2013 Xbox One. Yeah. Okay, like, it's the same as God of War. I'm still going to wonder what that game could have been. But the difference is they were blunt about that from the beginning. Yeah. The difference is they never sold an idea otherwise. And especially with Gran Turismo, I'm sorry, you can't advertise a PS5 only game and then expect people to be okay with it. What happens now? What happens? This is my question to myself, to you, Nick, to anyone in chat, please. What happens when they announce a PS5 only game now? Can you actually trust that it's PS5 only?
So
but can you in reality believe them at this point? Because they have shown they will go back on that. Like I'm sorry, I just don't see how anyone else doesn't understand that this is a problem.
Well, and see, this is the thing, because we list all these PlayStation 5 exclusive games, you know, Demon Souls, Returnal, Ratchet and Clank. All these games were probably in development before God of War, Horizon Forbidden West. Like, you can bet your arse that Returnal was definitely in development before, but it's PS5 only. And could it, like, Returnal's selling well, and I really congratulate Housemarque on that, but could have been buffed with PlayStation 4 owners? That's the questions that leave open. What this does is it adds a question mark. And this is what Xbox had to battle uphill about since 2016, is every time they said something, they stepped on their own foot and made fans question what the next step is. And that's what PlayStation's doing now. Yes, they have amazing games. We have never said otherwise to that. But what it's going to do is next time they announce a game, people are going to go, really though? And they're going to have to work through that. It's PR. PR is one of those things where you can shoot yourself in the foot 15 times and still have a good go of it afterwards. But it's those 15 shots in the foot consecutively that suck and drag out what could be a quick and easy process.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I don't think Sony wasn't thinking that they were going to go cross-gen back when, you know, it was a conversation topic. There's no way it wasn't on the table at the time, because I don't believe something's changed that dramatically in the past 6 months to all of a sudden require this to be a thing. And I remember you and me having conversations about this with Gran Turismo, that we thought it was weird that Forbidden West wasn't going to be PS5 only, but Gran Turismo was going to be. And going, wow, that's kind of weird, because Gran Turismo's been in development for a while. It'd be weird not to have a PS4 version. That was like,
right.
Well, it's about the next generation experience. Ultimately, you know, you can take stabs at wherever way you want to be, but I will be just as mad about this as if Xbox comes out and says Fable is available on Xbox One as well, as I am about this. Because at the end of the day, you told us one thing, you did the opposite. And you can't sit there and go, it's okay if this person does it, it's not okay if this person does it. I like to have consistency across my criticism. And my criticism is, tell me what it is. I don't care if I don't like it at first, but be honest with me. Don't think I'm so stupid that I'm just going to follow a marketing campaign. You guys can change directions. I'm just going to go, oh, yeah, that's fine. No, be honest. That's all you have to be. Just be honest with what your direction is, even if necessarily some fans won't like it.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Beyond that, there was something about, in happier PlayStation news, there was something about Pixel Opus, right?
Yeah, so they're doing a new IP in partnership with Sony. Now, I typed this in the notes as Sony Studios, but I believe what they're working on is they're working in the partnership with the films branch of
Sony Pictures.
Sony Pictures, which...
That's interesting. Sony Pictures has had some hits. They've had some misses, as with all film studios. This is my guess, because I tried to rack my brain over what it could be. I'm guessing it's like a new film and they're going to have a tie-in game, or vice versa, a new game and they're going to have a tie-in film, like, cross-platform synergy that they've talked about before in terms of, if you read the investor reports, like one PlayStation sharing music across libraries, sharing IP across libraries and that sort of thing. I imagine this is what that is, because it's probably easier to tie a movie and a game in together when it's a very small team. Right? Like Pixel Opus is like 15, 16 people, something like that. They're a good small-sized team. So it's probably easier for them to have synergy with a team making an animated film. That's me spitballing. I have no idea. That's just me theorizing about all this. But I think that would be cool, because Pixel Opus is very quietly a very little creative part of PlayStation Studios, and I want them to thrive.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing is like Concrete Genie was probably one of my most standout PS4 games, and it really was never set to be. Like when I first bought it, I was like, I'll be all right. But it really snuck its way in there. It had a lot of heart, and the art direction was incredible. So them working with Sony Pictures, I'm really excited for that because that's a really creative team through and through. And it'll be interesting to see what they can kind of cohesively come together with. And, you know, I'm always excited when it's new IPs and they're doing all this different stuff. And, you know, especially with small teams always come out with the stuff that make you go, ooh.
Yeah, because it's like, and this is not, I mean, I've said this before. I'm the guy that likes the big AAA blockbusters. So this is not me disrespecting them. But it is interesting because I think if you're a small team, you can be more reactive. You can be much more, okay, no, let's do this. And it's not going to, you're not throwing away 6 months of work that 200 people worked on. You know what I mean? It's just, it's more iterative. It's a smaller thing. It's much more creative because it's a smaller amount of people. Objectively, every person in the team has more of a creative voice with the project. So yeah, I have no idea ways. I'll say this, based on what they've done so far, I presume it'll be colorful. I think that's pretty safe to assume, right? After Entwined and Concrete Genie, it'll be very vibrant, lots of colors. Which again, good synergy with like an animated film.
Yeah, no, it's definitely their art direction is phenomenal, and Sony Pictures animation has phenomenal art direction as well. So I'm really excited with anything that combines those two things because I just need something that looks better than Kingdom Hearts because goddamn, just take the throne away from the absolute mess of a game that is. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see what they come up with and what stories they're going to tell. Hopefully hear about it. I'm not going to say sooner rather than later, but we'll hear about it.
Pandemic means like, I don't know. The pandemic means, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, it's one of those things that I could see them announcing it this year if they have a showcase. But I can also totally see them holding on to it until 2022 and talking about it again. Is what it is. This year is a mess.
This year is the year of things that we didn't think were going to release getting delayed. I guess we can talk briefly about this. To the surprise of one singular person, God of War, which still does not have a name properly, was delayed to 2022.
I didn't even bring it up when we were talking about that because I didn't think anyone was surprised. Like it just, okay, it's fine. I get it. It's it is kind of, I'll say this, it's kind of funny. Not that delays are funny, but it is funny in the sense that this is the one that everyone was on board for. Literally no one thought this game was coming out this year. So it's fine. We've already been assuming that that's when it would be for months now. It's totally fine.
Like, I'm pretty sure when we did like our E3 talk about Sony last week or the week before, we were all like, so when in 2022 is God of War coming out?
We were. Okay, I will say, because I have to own up when I'm wrong, my Galaxy Brain take last week was that maybe God of War did make it because it was a small Miles Morales type game. I did say that. I will publicly walk that back because it's very clear it's a big game. It's very clear at this point to me that it is not a small game and that it is the next big God of War game. You can't blame me for trying, okay?
Sorry, I'm writing down this one. I don't get W's often, okay?
True, but...
so
it's fine. So I say, Monica, take the time you need. It's fine.
Yeah, if you want to tease us with your sci-fi game, tease. I'm okay with that too.
Okay, no, wait a minute. Okay, I would like to see God of War like in depth before they tease their sci-fi game. I will say that, right? Like, let's not get not the cart before the horse, but let's not get the second horse before the first horse. Does that make any sense?
Like, they're using a lot of horses in this.
yeah, exactly. Somewhere Doc is shivering.
Now, the final tidbit that's kind of interesting about this is, of course, Horizon Zero. Why do I always want to call it Horizon Zero Dawn Forbidden West? Why do I want to make the name that long? Horizon Forbidden West, when they talked about it, is that they say it's still on, they are optimistic that is on track to hit fall. But there could be hiccups or wherever the case may be. For me personally, I'm on Team 2022. I think they're going to release it in February, where the original game is. Because
I think that's a safe call at this point. Yeah,
because there is not a chance that Sony puts this sequel out and it's not perfect.
Yep. It's a big game for them. They need to get it right. And
to be that guy, I have to wonder if some of the stuff they're ironing out is the PS4 version.
So I think that's probably the case for God of War and Gran Turismo. I actually don't think it's the case for Horizon, because they've said that Guerrilla said they've done a lot of play testing on PS4. That it started. They were actually very open, I think, in an interview with IGN about how it started as a PS4 game. Now, don't get me wrong. That game is not going to look anywhere near as good on PS4. I'm sure the PS5 version is night and day difference, but they did say they've play tested extensively there. I think it'll run okay. I think it'll be all right. God of War and Gran Turismo, I imagine, are very different stories. But
yeah, I get this general consensus that if you try to play any of these cross-gen games on your original PlayStation, your PlayStation just puts on Elton John's Rocket Man and then proceeds to blast off into the sky. Because I know for a fact that my just talking about older consoles in general, listening to my friend's original Xbox One try to play Cyberpunk was just
oh god no.
It'd be like loading and all you'd hear is and you're like, ooh. But yeah, no. Play these on the next generation consoles. Don't, just because the cross gen doesn't mean they should be. But we gotta talk a little bit about Insomniac Games now.
Yep.
And I love talking about Insomniac Games. They're one of my favorite developers, and PlayStation has proven that they are the frugalist in the acquisition games, because the amount of money they spent to acquire Insomniac Games for the amount of heavy lifting Insomniac Games has done with the PlayStation 5 launch window is phenomenal. Okay, like Insomniac Games is 75% of the reason why you should own a PlayStation 5 right now.
Objectively, yeah. I mean, look at the games that are out, cross-gen and full exclusive, and like Miles Morales is them, Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered is them, now Ratchet and Clank is them. Like, I don't know, that's basically half the reason right there. It's wild.
It's wild, and I also kind of love it because, I always felt Insomniac never really got the shine they deserved till Spider-Man. And now it's great to see all these people that are like, whoa, wow, they're really productive. And,
kind of funny, touched on that same topic a couple of weeks ago when they were talking about like which PlayStation studios they think will shine the most this generation. And I think it was Greg Miller was mentioning that like Insomniac has always been good. They've never been a bad studio, to be clear. They've always been a good studio. But there was a time when it was only Insomniac fans. Like, Insomniac fans know Resistance 3 was a darn good game. That was underrated. Brilliant box art, I will say. Brilliant box art. And it didn't get the love it deserved. Now the wider world is seeing that Insomniac is to be loved. That's kind of... And I thought that was a very good way of putting it.
Yeah, no, it definitely they've put a lot of effort forward. And what kind of made me really happy though was seeing a couple of the devs. Like Insomniac Games has a lot of developers that are on social media that actually talk a fair bit, and seeing the one developer say that it was a crunch-free environment to put out Ratchet and Clank. A couple of late nights here and there, but otherwise it was like a smooth, buttery experience. To put out that many games, AAA games, I might add, in that time frame and do it without crunch, somebody needs to figure out what they're doing over there and spread it across the industry, because they're doing something way different than everyone else, and they're doing it phenomenally well. But they are also the masters of the tease. and honeypotting and whatever else you want to call
it. Whoa! That phrase means the same thing in the great up north that it means down here.
So, Insomniac has just casually been tweeting about Resistance for like the past, since acquisition basically, and made me just like frothing at the mouth every time I read my Twitter timeline. But then they decided to take it one step farther. And they started doing a little Portal teasing. Of course, this was revealed to just be revealing a gun in Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Which is cool, but you can't tell me that there isn't something going on when all of a sudden the Sunset Overdrive Twitter's kick into gear again, and Fizzy reappears after being career dead since since the PC port came out in like 2018, I guess.
Yeah, that account briefly resurfaced in 2018 for the PC port.
Yeah,
but that was very, very brief, and I know it was a lot of general teasing. I like Ivan's conspiracy theory that every single thing meant something. I love it. I admire the energy. Okay, I do. I don't think realistically it does. I don't think realistically there's a Sly Cooper remake. I don't think realistically every single one of those teases meant something. But starting it off with Sunset Overdrive, they know what they were doing. That one is intentional. They absolutely know what they're doing with that. And at this point, though, I personally wanted it to be Resistance. I 100% agree with you. I think Drew Murray is working on new Sunset. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, I think it makes a lot of sense for them. When Drew Murray went back to Insomniac Games, there's one of two things happening. There's Resistance coming or there's Sunset Overdrive's coming. One of those two. Those two were his babies. I think he cut his teeth on Resistance originally, and then, Sunset Overdrive was his baby. So, I wish them all the luck with it. If they do Sunset Overdrive 2, they do a remaster, remake, whatever the case may be, that IP was special. It was one of the best IPs on Xbox One. It was that game that kind of was like, ooh, I want to get an Xbox One for this. That was the game that pushed me over the edge to get an Xbox One over an Xbox 360 during the whole awkward, most of the good games were still cross-gen and the exclusive ones were stage. So, I think there's realism to that one. As soon as I saw the Sly Cooper one, I started to just not believe any of it at all, because I'm like, that IP's dead. We're never going to see that IP again. And it makes me sad because I sat there, I was like, maybe Sucker Punch goes back to Sly after Ghost of Tsushima. And I saw how well Ghost of Tsushima went. I went, nope. That's not happening. It's not a mystery what Sucker Punch is working on next. That's for sure. But I think what I want to do is I want to tip my hat to the intern or whoever runs Insomniac's social media accounts, because whoever runs that account has a great knowledge of what gets people excited. And the amount of hubbub I saw about all these games to get Sly Cooper, Sunset Overdrive, and Resistance trending all simultaneously while talking about Ratchet & Clank is huge, because you got people that were looking for those IPs now looking at Ratchet & Clank. It's genius marketing at the very least. And I hope it's more than just marketing in the long run. Because I know every goddamn console warrior YouTuber is wringing their hands hoping to God PlayStation makes a Sunset Overdrive game for the irony of it all. But for me, I want to see Drew Murray get an opportunity to make Sunset Overdrive 2. Because
think about it, dude. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt you, but we talk about this all the time. Sunset Overdrive, you see the DNA of Spider-Man. You see some of the ideas starting to bear fruit. They were budding. Spider-Man was that gameplay realized. What could a Sunset Overdrive 2 learning from Spider-Man look like?
Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing is there's so much to be excited about if that was to happen. And this continues on my thing that I will always say is what I love most about Insomniac is they cater specifically to me because they're a gameplay dev.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the stories are good, but the gameplay is always that hook. Whenever anyone talks about Insomniac Games, you talk about what gets you hooked into it. You're always talking about their gameplay, whether it's Ratchet and Clank, Resistance, Sunset Overdrive, Spider-Man. It's all so phenomenal. And the fact that they've got better writing and have shown that they can, tell these great stories, like with Miles Morales is a fantastic example. I think the future of whatever they do is bright, and seeing PlayStation double, triple down on them, it's a bright future ahead for Insomniac. And that kind of segues into our discussion topic a bit.
Yeah.
PlayStation, I feel like the conversation online, and people can argue with me about this. You can even argue with me about this. Is we spent online, we have a tendency to talk more about Xbox studios because they've gone through acquiring so many over the past few years that often discussions about PlayStation studios only come up really when, they're releasing a game, basically, which is fine. That's fine. But what I kind of want to talk about is, our favorite PlayStation studio. There's tons of great talent there. And, that's kind of the great thing about PlayStation, what's soon to be with Xbox studios as well. If you ask somebody, hey, what's your favorite PlayStation studio? You're probably going to get a variety of answers depending on who you ask. So, Sam, what's your favorite PlayStation studio?
I will tell you, but I would like, with your permission, to make an 11th hour adjustment and flip the script a bit. I want to say not only our favorite PlayStation studio, but and this can be a separate answer, what PlayStation studio do we think makes the best game this generation? I'm shamelessly stealing this from Kind of Funny. Sorry, Greg, because I thought it was a great topic. It
is.
So remember, doesn't have to be the same answer. Does not have to be. But of course it is personal, like the best game to you, maybe the rest of the world doesn't agree, but like your favorite, like what, or maybe you can, like, I don't know, pick your poison. So I'll start us off. My answer, I objectively don't see how you can't say this. It's Insomniac is the best one. I don't see how it's up for debate at this point. With how they are flexing, with how they are putting out games. They put out Spider-Man in 2018, Marvel Spider-Man, and they had DLC. Some of it wasn't good, but they had DLC. That's the point. Like, they were doing content for it. Then that was all the way through like December 2018 or January 2019. Okay, point is, then they have not only Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, a small game for the launch of the PS5, they also have a remaster of the 2018 Spider-Man game. And now in just a few days, they're about to have Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't see how there is an answer other than Insomniac to this question. I just don't see how there is. I love God of War. I love God of War until I'm blue in the face. God of War is immaculate. One of my favorite games. But God of War is the only game that Sony Santa Monica put out this generation.
Yeah.
Like, it's no contest, man. It's no contest. I don't think it's a contest. So Insomniac Games. But I will say, however, I think that Sony Santa Monica is going to make the best game this generation. I will put that up. That's my take.
Yeah, I have a hard time disagreeing with that, honestly. For me, people always talk, when it comes to first-party studios, do you want quantity or do you want quality? And with Insomniac Games, you get both.
Yep.
Honestly. Like, no other developer has put out AAA games like this in such a short space of time from one studio. I don't think anyway. Like
if they have, like, my mind is blanking, and someone can feel free to remind me. Like, I mean, I know the closest anyone else is coming is that Obsidian is juggling multiple projects right now.
Yeah.
They're doing multiple games, not just Avowed. So like that's like the closest thing I can think of.
Yeah. And see, we talk about, the multi team approach that, Xbox has obviously been doing with their first party studios, and now PlayStation's starting to branch out with their own, of course. But as we're seeing with Insomniac is it really works if it's managed well. Like that flow of games is consistent because not only that, they have VR games they're putting out as well on top of this. Like, I don't know what they are. I just know they make VR games on top of all of this.
Yeah, they had some contractual stuff that they had to finish up. Not last year. I think it was in late 2019. I can't remember what they were. They had some contractual VR games they developed and all that. So yeah, like, yeah.
It's hard to argue that Insomniac isn't the best PlayStation studio as it stands right now, in terms of both output and quality. It's a hard argument. They put out more games at the start of this generation than most PlayStation studios put out the entire last generation. That's wild. Okay, I can't. You can't argue that. Like, there's no studio that's more productive and putting out higher quality stuff than Insomniac right now. And what's the PlayStation studio that I think will be the big crown jewel of PlayStation 5? See, God of War is that event game. That is going to be the pinnacle of the PlayStation 5, I think. Like, absolutely. Like, yeah, there's going to be other games down the road, but this is the one.
Wait, clarify. I need you to clarify. This God of War game, the one coming up next year, or the one they're doing after that? Let's get spicy. Let's get particular here.
Okay. Yeah, no, this upcoming one.
Oh, you think they're peaking early? You think this upcoming God of War game is going to be the best game of the PS5 generation? Like, that's what you're saying?
Yes. And the reason I say this, it hinges on their ability to take risks. And the reason I say this is I think if, spoiler alert, I think if they kill Kratos in the first part of this game and they completely throw players for a loop, it's going to be one of the most memorable games of the PlayStation 5 generation because they killed an icon to create something new. And that amount of risk is huge to me. If they keep Kratos alive through this whole game, not so much. Doesn't have the same impact to me. Is they're still hooked on keeping him around. I want to see them take that risk and take that biscuit and put him in the ground. And like, I want to see Thor beat the goddamn brakes off Kratos. Like, I want to see it.
So I'm not disagreeing with you. Because that would be cathartic at this point. But I will say where I differ with you is my brain was at whatever they're doing next. Not this game, but like their 2025 or their 2026 or 2027. I don't know. Their PS5 only game that they do further off into the gen. That's what I was thinking of when I said I think that they'll put out the best game.
Yeah, that is a good argument.
Spicy. I mean, you're spicy, man. I like it.
Yeah. The only other one that I'll throw into the mix, just as a head to the ground kind of thing, is I'm very interested to see what Sucker Punch can do, because they did a lot of breakthroughs in Ghost of Tsushima that were way different than what they did before. They made a good game. Can they make an amazing game? That's what I'm interested in seeing from them. And of course, you can't leave Naughty Dog out of the discussion, but if it's The Last of Us Part 3, it's just
yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into a Last of Us discussion. So I'll say that Naughty Dog is great. Naughty Dog's animation is amazing. Naughty Dog's tech is amazing. Maybe I'm weird. I feel like a lot of PlayStation studios have caught up. That's not to say that Naughty Dog's like isn't still the best, but like when I was playing Marvel Spider-Man, I found myself thinking, oh, like Insomniac's facial capture is really good, or Miles Morales, their facial capture is really good. God of War, some of the emotion in those scenes, the performance, like it's darn good. So I feel like I guess I'll end it on this note. I'm not saying Naughty Dog can't put out the best game this generation. I think they are a very strong contender to do so. But I don't think there is any more this delta where it's like you got Naughty Dog up here and then all of the others down here on the bell end curve.
Yeah.
I think the competition between some of them is a lot tighter now. Which is good. Like that is a good thing. That is objectively a very good thing. And it'll be interesting to see.
I think there's I'm not going to say like, I don't want to use the term animosity, but I feel like there's got to be something that takes a play if you're a developer at PlayStation Studios and you constantly have to log into social media and all you see is people going, Naughty Dog's the best studio in PlayStation. Nothing else matters. That's got to put a hunger into you at some point. And like even Cory Barlog admitted, I remember in an interview pre-God of War, that they're always intercompeting against each other on who can, one up the next one. And, that kind of internal competition is good because it strives for better games. Because let me tell you, if you compare God of War 2018 to God of War 3, whoo! It's like if you compare The Last of Us to The Last of Us Part 2. Those steps in between aren't steps. They're like jumping and leaps. And yeah, it's wild. It is really wild to me. And, people can take this as a hot take if they want, but I think the thing about Naughty Dog that people don't understand is Naughty Dog doesn't particularly do anything unique. They just do a lot of things better than everybody else. And I think that's something that people have a really hard time putting into words, is that they're just a little bit better at everything than everyone else. And that's why they stand out so much. It's like Rockstar in terms of open world. They're just a little bit better than everyone else, and you notice that attention to detail. And I think that's the same with Naughty Dog, but I think Naughty Dog's got to throw some curveballs in at some point because I don't want to see them become the Last of Us Uncharted studio.
Yeah,
I want to see something new from them.
I mean, everyone says sci-fi. It doesn't have to be sci-fi. I do want to see a new IP from Naughty Dog. It's time. Yeah. I'm not saying you can't go back to those others, but give us a new IP. New IP would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. But, it is what it is. Different strokes for different folks. My opinion's right. All y'all are wrong. So it doesn't really matter. But yeah, so we're going to close out. We've got a couple of community-based questions. So,
okay.
First one. Hey guys, do you guys think after all this news that was dumped by PlayStation, do you guys still think that we will see a June event?
June, no. It's too late for June. There could be something in July. I would not rule July out. I think like towards the end of this month, they could announce a July event. But also they don't have to do a July event. Like they could do it in August or September. Actually, I'll say this. If they don't do anything in July, I would go ahead and put money on September. Yeah. Ahead of the fall rush, but out of the summer rush. So.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Sam. I think it's too late at this point to do an announcement for a June event. Like, I know it's PlayStation. They can drop something at the drop of a hat. But yeah. I feel like if they drop an announcement in the middle of E3 for something a week or two out, that's kind of weird timing.
Yeah.
So, I think, I think honestly that July, I see something. I don't see them sitting tight through the summer. I don't see them doing that. Mm-hmm. I feel like they have to promote what their holiday games are going to be, like what the focal point of the PS5 is going to be over the holidays, and then slide into the spring, kind of like, I don't want to get too balls out with it, but I think maybe do a state of play in July could kind of show what the holiday is going to look like, and then maybe an event in September.
Okay. I can see that.
because like the state of play's kind of been tempered into an expectation point of we're definitively showing you this. And I really like that both Xbox and PlayStation have started going, hey, we're showing you this. And people are still like, but Silent Hill. And we're like, no, this. So it's interesting. We'll have to wait and see. Do they delay their showcase as much as possible to figure out if Horizon makes it? You know, I wonder if the event swings on a Horizon release date, honestly. That is a very good question that I honestly couldn't predict, but I don't know.
No, I don't think so, because they need to show God of War in depth. They have other stuff to announce. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, we mentioned Pixel Opus. There's other stuff. The Firewalk game, the Firewalk Studios partnership seems like it's pretty far along. They have stuff they can announce. Horizon's release date very much feels like a blog post. Whether it's this year or 2022, that is something you drop on a random afternoon or a random morning and you command the internet's attention, whether it's good news or, okay, we're waiting a little bit longer. Like, they don't have to hold on for a showcase. Remember, they were sitting on that whole September showcase for a while that they did for the PS5's launch, and they didn't say that, like, Miles Morales and Demon's Souls were launch games at that event. It was in the blog post, so they do not have to hold on to that. That can absolutely be just a blog post thing.
Yeah, I have to wonder, you know, when's Deathloop supposed to come out?
Deathloop is September. Yep. There's got to be something in August. I don't know. I don't know what to think. There's something in the next 3 months. There you go. There's my. I'm sticking for July. I'll stick in on there being something in July.
A verified user on Reset Era confirmed. Reset Era has no power here.
I actually am not familiar with that. I missed that somehow. I'll have to check into that. I missed that one.
The only Reset Era post I saw was them saying PSX on the 28th of June, and I just laughed my nuts off, to be frank.
I thought that was I thought that was the 4chan post.
I don't know. It's all inviolable to me until I see an official blog post.
I'll look into it. I'll look into it. I didn't see that.
Kena is in August. Deathloop is September. Yeah, you know, there's something this summer. And you know, I will.
Speaking of Kena, not to interrupt you. Speaking of Kena, Jeff Keighley tweeted out that there's going to be the Kenica, like some sort of indie festival that they're doing as part of Summer Game Fest, and they're going to be showing 12 Minutes, Sable, and Kena there. So all three of those games should get nice updates in this month.
I'm excited for Kena, honestly. That's one of those day one buys, honestly. But yeah, I'm going to relegate myself as a Twitter insider and just say PlayStation will have an event in the next 3 months, and we'll probably have a God of War trailer. It's like throwing a rock at a house and being like, I hit the house. Mom. But yeah, no, I think there's something coming. We'll wait and see. Honestly, I don't try to get hyped up in this anymore. I just go through the Reddit games and leaks thread and just giggle incessantly. Especially around this time of year. Around this time of year, I trust absolutely nothing. Because wasn't it earlier today they were like, we're bringing Splinter Cell back, but it's going to be some weird multiplayer thing. And I'm like,
There hasn't been an official announcement. Some images leaked, and they look pretty legit, but that is technically unconfirmed. So don't get me wrong, it's Ubisoft. I have no doubt that it's true, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to know how they're. I don't want to see them ruin my man Sam Fisher at E3 again.
Any other community questions?
We got one last one.
Okay.
So I just wanted your guys' insight because both of you write editorials on a regular basis. Eric can answer as well. Eric is not here. What are your guys' thoughts on editorial pieces that say Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5s aren't worth owning yet? Do you guys think the value is in the console yet, or do you think that someone can wait a year and extract more value by waiting?
Do you want to tackle this first?
Sure, I'll tackle this first so you can kind of coagulate everything. That wasn't even the right word. God damn it.
No, that's pretty good. I would use coagulate. That's fine.
All right. See, for me, and I've seen people say it's stupid, but load times alone, it's worth it to me. My PlayStation 5 purchase just with Astro's Playroom was worth it to me, and that's stupid. That's stupid. It's legitimately like a 3-hour experience, but I had so much fun with that. And, I couldn't imagine playing Miles Morales on my PlayStation 4 Slim. That's just not something I was willing to do. And like missing out on games like Returnal, even though, I have mixed thoughts on Returnal, getting to experience Returnal was awesome. And the same goes for my Xbox Series X. Like, yeah, I know there's no, launch exclusives and blah, 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 blah. But like the quality of life improvements I've seen in the games I play every day with my Xbox Series X, whether it's Rainbow Six Siege or State of Decay 2 or any of these things, I couldn't imagine not having it right now. That's just me, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to temper what I'm about to say with the fact that it very much does come from a position of privilege, right? Like objectively, on some first world level, it comes with the privilege of I was able to afford these systems, so yes. With that in mind, yes, it was worth it. It is worth buying them. However, I don't think this early on that invalidates an article saying you don't need it per se. I would not personally write that article, but I understand where someone is coming from. If you're a parent and you're strapped for cash, I'll put okay, do you need it? No, it would be really good to have. It would, again, the load times on their own are the game changer. I agree with you, Nick. Just eliminating load times, that by itself is more than enough reason. But if you are having trouble affording it and you're really unsure if you want to bite the bullet right now, there's going to be deals later on. It's going to take a while because of the pandemic, but eventually there's going to be bundles. Like you'll be able to get a PS5 probably with like Ratchet and Clank and Demon's Souls and probably something else bundled in there. You'll be able to get an Xbox Series X this time next year, probably with Halo in it and, I don't know, a year Game Pass or something bundled in. So I don't think articles saying that are wrong in an italicized, bolded sense. I just don't think they're accurate if you're in the bubble like we are either.
Yep.
And I know that's a very middle of the road way of answering it, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't think it's simple as just saying yes or no.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's a person-to-person response, and I won't yell or get mad at someone for thinking differently. Because, PlayStation 5's launch lineup wasn't that great for me. I bought it for Miles and Astros. Demon's Souls was not that game for me, and Returnal was just an extra in the basket because I like Housemarque. I could have gone without it, but I had one fall in my lap, and trying to find one now is so
it's rough up in Canada, right?
Yeah,
it's rough.
Yeah. So, and this is my kind of thing. Like, I am the most privileged person, one of the most privileged people on the internet right now, because I have an Xbox Series X, a PS5, and a 3060 Ti right now.
That graphics card is what pushes it. It's not the consoles, man. It's the graphics card. Like, I'm sorry, the consoles are like, that's one thing. That's all right, but the graphics card is just God.
So I speak from a position of privilege to say yes. To me, it feels necessary, but also if you're running a Pro or an Xbox One X, you're good for a little bit. You're still good for a little bit.
We meme, but you will be able to play Horizon. You will be able to play Halo Infinite. And now God of War and Gran Turismo 7. It hasn't been announced, but I presume Forza Horizon 5 as well. I presume Forza Horizon 5 will be a cross-gen game.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You can enjoy those games and everything else. Like, it's the weirdest thing is, like, technical stuff is such a big deal to all of us. But to some people, just doesn't even matter. Like, I made a joke in the show earlier about my friend playing Cyberpunk on the original Xbox One. He finished the game, 100% completed it on Xbox, and it was one of his most favorite games he's played in the past few years.
Now that is wild.
that is wild, but there are people out there that are okay with that. Like, I remember I even offered him my 1X when I got my Series X, and he was like, is 4K really that big of a deal? And I'm like, dude. But, everyone has their own, tastes, so to speak. And that's the biggest thing. I think a lot of people lose in the sense of editorial and everything else is everyone thinks a site is a singular person, that if one editorial goes out one day and one goes out 3 days later, it's the same person and they contradict themselves and it's a bad thing. Editorials is how one specific person felt. They felt a certain way about something. They pitched it to an editor or a team lead. They got approval to write it. They wrote it. It got edited. It got pushed out. And that's that person's thoughts. One person doesn't represent everybody, and nobody speaks for everybody. And I think that's the thing that we all kind of forget sometimes is that, one person doesn't represent all of us. And that's why I keep telling myself when I see shit nerds threaten people online, I'm like, they're not one of us. They're not one of us. They're not one of us. But yeah, it's just the way it is. And, editorials will always be that way. And, what gets approved and what doesn't get approved is a whole different conversation topic. But the final thing I will close this show out on is if you're constantly bemoaning that media sites don't cover topics or content that you're interested in, stop clicking on the garbage you hate, because the media will follow where the clicks go. So if you want in-depth reporting, if you want in-depth reviews and stuff, click and read those articles as hard as you click on the ones that have titles like, this is why you don't need a PS5 that comes out 5 minutes after Ratchet and Clank's revealed again. Don't fall for the easy bait. Go read the good stuff. There's tons of great work out there that I see with like 5 likes all the time on social media, yet, the dumbest shit will get traction. So consume the content you want to see and things will get better in time. But, what do I know? Sam, it was a good time hanging out with you. So let's get to outros. Where can people find you if they want to, consume your content, as the kids would say?
Jesus, that makes me cringe. You can find me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert. That's TOLBERT. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody. Appreciate it. Always appreciate having good discussions. I like how wholesome everyone is when they hang out here. Oh, yeah. Oh, and I'm covering E3, so you can find that over on Tech Radar's feed. I'll be covering all the E3 conferences and all that. Should be fun. Totally not screaming on the inside. No siree.
Yeah, you know what? And I'm watching people deal with that E3 portal and everything else, and I'm like, but yeah, no, it's a good time. It's always a good time here, and we always talk about video games here. And I know, so I appreciate each and every one of you, because I feel like my chat doesn't like me half the time, and I love all of you because you guys come in here and will argue about the things I say with me, but you guys are always respectful and always awesome about it. And I really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to the show every week. And we've got cool stuff planned post E3. There'll be a show next week. We're going to have a lot to talk about next week. Oh, boy. We're going to have
because that'll be the 14th. Yeah, so that'll be fun because Summer Game Fest and the Ubisoft show and the Xbox show will have happened by then. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. Actually, that'll be the 15th for us.
Wait, am I reading wrong?
Yes.
Oh, snap. So we get to talk Nintendo too. Okay, we are going to have to cram.
Yeah, we are stuffing next week. We are loaded next week. So that'll be a great show. We're going to talk about a bunch of great games, a bunch of exciting stuff, and please be excited. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Undead3XVI, on Discord, Uwu Daddy. And I appreciate all of you that consume our content on a regular basis and come and hang out with us each and every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will see you guys next week with the same panel, not same topics, different topics, but good fun all the time. Have fun. Be safe.